Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe from the studios for our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. In addition, today, as always, we're joined on public access community television on cable in Birmingham by Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Both of our television stations, Bama and Civic Center TV, are on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. You can, of course, find us on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM, as well as on 88.1 The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. We're online on civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link at the top of our homepage on your computer web browser, or on the left margin of the page on your mobile phone web browser, and view us in the small player at the top right of our homepage as well, where you can find our live program live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Monday through Friday, as well as all of our programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on civiccentertv.com. And all throughout the state of Michigan, you can join us online on My Michigan TV. It's actually all around the world, where you can find content about Michigan from creators in the state of Michigan 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a free service. You can subscribe online at mymytv.com, mymitv.com. In addition, you can find My Michigan TV on your smartphone on many of the app stores, including the Apple iOS store, as well as the Android App Store, and on your smart TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Samsung Smart TV as well, and Android TV. All those details about where you can find My Michigan Television on their website, mymytv.com, mymitv.com. And as always, we're joined on Facebook by our Facebook pages, Civic Center TV 15 and Facebook.com/LakesFM. You can find all details about the Megacast, about our partnering stations on our website at civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Again, if you want to learn more about Birmingham Area Municipal Access, about 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, you can click on their websites by going directly to ours at civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where we direct you to information about these partnering community radio stations, television stations, and other media outlets as we continue to expand in the Oakland County area, throughout southeastern Michigan, and across the Great Lakes state. And if you're not able to join us each and every day from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, we understand. We encourage it. Obviously, you're always welcome to be with us live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday during our new shows. But that's not always the case. Not everyone's always going to be able to join us. And if that's the case and you want to tune into the full 2 hours on your convenience at a time that works for you, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, and click on our Watch Full Episodes link to watch our entire shows that are usually posted sometime mid to late afternoon during our regular business hours. And you can watch individual interviews as well. My apologies. If certain topics are more interesting to you or more important to you, yourself, your family, your professional life, whatever the case may be, all of those interviews can be found by clicking the Watch Full Interviews link at civiccentertv.com/Megacast. And then right next to that on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, or just go to our website and click on the coronavirus link. That takes you to a page all about COVID-19 and the top stories in our local area. The most important links on there are those to the Centers for Disease Control, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, and many of our local southeastern Michigan municipalities direct COVID-19 related pages. So if you need information about how COVID-19 is affecting programs and affecting City Hall in the prettiest little city in Michigan, in Sylvan Lake, you can click on that link on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. But you know, maybe you're not in Sylvan Lake. Maybe you're out in Grand Rapids and need more information about how COVID-19 is affecting your community, including the COVID-19 metrics about about your county, about your local school district, and the spread of COVID-19 and the Delta variant. That can be found at the state of Michigan's COVID-19 webpage. And instead of you searching through everything to find these pages, we have direct links on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. In addition, we have our top stories each and every day on the program that we post there just before the beginning of our live shows. And today, making headlines first from the Detroit Free Press, Oakland University faculty is out on strike, but students were told to check if their classes are still in session. Oakland University's faculty has gone on strike, but the university says the first day of classes today will continue. The 880-member faculty union's contract expired Wednesday night. At issue are pay and benefits, the union said. Talks between the two sides with a mediator were scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. today. Quote, the job action, which was overwhelmingly supported by faculty, comes after months of intensive negotiations failed to produce a new contract before the start of the new term, the union said in a statement early this morning. It continued on. Faculty negotiators were seeking cost of living increases and compensation for professors who earned exemplary performance scores from administration for teaching and research in the pandemic year. And close quote. Union President Karen Miller said the university needs to treat its faculty fairly. In a quote from Ms. Miller, she said, Oakland is using the pandemic as a pretext to cut faculty compensation and exert control over academic programs, she said in a media release. It continued on, the university has received state and federal assistance during the pandemic. There is no longer a financial emergency. Administrative pay has been restored to pre-pandemic levels, and there have been new hires at the upper levels of management. The money is there to fairly compensate faculty, end closed quote. Thursday, of course, is the first day of classes for the 2021-2022 school year. University officials say classes would begin as scheduled. And a quote, the university hopes to resolve the remaining contract issues as soon as possible and with minimal disruption to fall classes, which will not be canceled, the university said in an email to students. Students are advised to report to their classes as scheduled and wait at least 15 minutes to determine whether their instructor will be teaching. Students may also contact their instructors in advance to determine whether classes will be taking place. Students will be responsible for all course content and assignments delivered during and subsequent to the negotiation period. While contract talks continue, all university classes, support services, extracurricular activities, and other operations will continue on their normal schedule. The university regrets this faculty union strike that is taking place, particularly given the public sector strikes are illegal. Public sector strikes are illegal under Michigan law. The university's negotiating team urges faculty to teach and requests that non-faculty employees urge faculty to do the same. So this, the beginning of the negotiations today. Oakland University faculty is out on strike. Some classes are affected, but others maybe are not. So in this case, you feel for the students who have already gone through so much over the course of the pandemic. You also feel for the faculty and those that are teaching these classes and doing this research that have gone above and beyond to continue the great work that's being done at Oakland University and at other university institutions during the pandemic, and hopefully they can find a resolution to these issues. But the fact of the matter is, as they've said, there has been a lot, as has been argued by the union, by the faculty union. There's an influx of federal assistance that has come into the university this year. They have an influx of cash that they're able to allocate for situations like this, where they have faculty that has extenuating circumstances that have continued to work diligently and work hard over the course of the pandemic, and in some ways has a very good argument to say that they deserve increased compensation and recognition financially for their continued efforts during the pandemic, a time where teaching classes and doing research arguably became much harder. That being said, the university has to focus on what is best for the university's bottom line, to continue to provide the best services possible and provide programs to its students going forward as it continues to build its profile. So there's that balance there, and hopefully these negotiations don't go on for too long, because as we said, and as is listed in this article, some classes may be canceled, some classes may be delayed, and that's going to affect the students who have certainly waited to have their in-person class opportunities come back, to be able to be back on campus, are going through what's already now a third school year that has been in some way affected by COVID-19, either in part or in full, and having further disruptions beyond the pandemic only will obstruct their education that much further. So hopefully they'll be able to persevere and these negotiations go by smoothly. Also making headlines at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Flooding in Metro Detroit is inevitable despite pump outage, consultants say. This from the Detroit News. Flooding in Metro Detroit following June rainstorms would have been bad even if pump houses on Detroit's east side had been working properly when the downpour hit, two consultants told the Great Lakes Water Authority Board on Wednesday. The assessment from consultants Ed Hogan and Wade Trim and Dave Hitz of Brown and Caldwell was provided to board members as part of a preliminary update on an internal investigation into rain events on June 25th and 26th that Water Authority officials have characterized as a 1,000-year storm. Hogan said the initial model results show that the basement flooding, quote, was similar to what would have occurred under more ideal circumstances, end closed quote. And a continued quote from Hogan, quote, there is no question that the intensity of this rain event and the duration of the intensity of this rain event was such that there was going to be extensive basement flooding, end closed quote. Hogan noted that the Water Authority subscribes to two weather forecasting services, Weather Sentry, which augured a little bit more than an inch over June 25 and 26, and the National Weather Service probabilistic forecast, which predicted 1.6 inches between June 24th and June 27th of this year. The rain, he said, was much more than that. The system is designed for 1.8 inches of rain in 1 hour, but it got 6 inches in 3 hours. The rainfall resulted in tens of thousands of flood claims and a presidential disaster declaration. The presentation comes 2 days after the Great Lakes Water Authority, or GLEWA, interim CEO Suzanne Coffey, gave a tour of the two Detroit pumping stations impacted by outages during the June rain, noting that internal review would examine what took place in the days ahead of these storms and the impact that it had on operations. Hogan, during Wednesday's Zoom meeting, showed that Wayne County flood claims were widespread in every corner of Detroit, and that from the Grosse Points to the east to about Dearborn Heights to the west, from 8 Mile to the Detroit River. Quote, nobody was spared in that thing, noted John Zeck, GLEWA's board chair and Wayne County's representative on the board. The final report is not yet complete and wasn't provided to the board ahead of Wednesday's meeting, prompting some aggravation among members. Quote, I'm not happy the board was not given the presentation before the meeting, said Brian Baker, Macomb County's representation on the regional 6-member board. That, to me, is unacceptable, he continued. This board needs this information beforehand, end closed quote. Detroit Water and Sewage Department Director Gary Brown agreed and questioned the value of the preliminary update. Quote, hopefully in the future the board gets documents beforehand instead of live at the meeting, added Brown, who is also one of 2 Detroit representatives on the board. I'm not sure we should be putting information out until it's completely vetted, end closed quote. Wednesday's meeting was Coffey's first since taking the post. She replaces Sue McCormick, who announced her resignation in the wake of the floods. The update, Coffey told members, was her attempt at transparency. The flooding events have spurred lawsuits and millions of dollars in FEMA claims, as well as a small business loan for affected homeowners. The internal probe, once completed, is expected to answer whether there's anything the authority could have done to prevent sewer backups in the June storms and others in the weeks that followed. The Connor Creek pumping station in Detroit faced electrical outages during the June rainstorms, leaving enough power for only 3 of its 8 storm pumps to operate. The Freud pump station was down 5 of 8 pumps when rain hit on June 25th. The issues there were tied to outages first reported to have occurred on June 23rd, but later revealed to be June 22nd. Power wasn't restored to that station until the 30th of June. GLEWA also conducted an external investigation into how outages occur. No timetable for the final report has been given on that. The outside investigation, led by attorney Jeffrey Collins and assisted by engineering firms AECOM and Applied Science, will focus on pumping stations, power supply, and power redundancy procedures, as well as employees. And so more on that article from the Detroit News on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as people want answers. The floods that happened in June, the storms that happened in July that had similar flooding, maybe on a lesser scale, are incredibly frustrating. Well beyond the power outage situation, you had people that were making FEMA claims, that were making insurance claims, even outside of those FEMA claims, and then turned around and days later had a similar storm come in during that time period and had a similar incident in their home to where what they just made an insurance claim on, here they are having to make a second insurance claim on, or in some cases, by the time they get everything restored and they get their belongings replaced that were affected by the floods, in some cases you have another situation where another storm similar to this, or another storm that's even on a lesser scale, but is within that realm of being beyond the effectiveness of these pumping stations, could adversely affect these same areas, these same groups of people, these same homeowners all over again. So it's incredibly frustrating, and it brings up more debate on what emphasis needs to be put on infrastructure restoration and changes, because on top of this being a climate change issue, certainly that comes into play, it is also very much so an infrastructure issue, and the two problems compound together to create horrible situations for homeowners downriver, certainly in the Grosse Pointes, in Dearborn Heights, and those areas, and many other places in Metro Detroit that were affected by these pumping station outages and by ineffective or malfunctioning infrastructure situations such as those at those pumping stations. So investigations, good that they're underway, but the information to these boards should be provided, like the board members were arguing, in advance. It shouldn't be surprise, this is what we found. And so more information on that will certainly be coming in as those investigations come on, and we'll try our best to stay on top of that with help from our good friends over at the Detroit News and many of our other news outlets like Bridge, Michigan, who holds our next story today. Get a shot, get a smoothie. Detroit's McDonald's owner joins the COVID effort. It was a lie, but John Campbell listened with a broad smile anyway. The owner of a McDonald's franchise on Grand River, Campbell had just invited an older couple placing a food order Wednesday to return the next day for a vaccination event in the parking lot. The couple had been vaccinated. The woman first assured him, okay, well, not really. She admitted moments after he took her order of a Big Mac. She shrugged. She just didn't want to have to wear a mask. Campbell's smile didn't flicker even for an instant. That's all right, he said. Just come back tomorrow, okay? We'll be here. Campbell grew up close to this McDonald's in Northwest Detroit. He was flipping burgers in the 80s, earned economics and food systems management degrees at Michigan State University, and now owns 2 McDonald's in the city and several others in the metro area. Through a program with Henry Ford Health System and Detroit-based insurer Health Alliance Plan, or HAP, Campbell's parking lot will become a mobile vaccination site on Thursday in a zip code where vaccination rates among low-income HAP members are perilously low. Among all residents here insured by HAP, about 55% have had at least one vaccine dose. But among those on HAP Medicaid plans, just 19%, 1 in 5, less than 1 in 5, have had a first vaccine dose. Bridge, Michigan talked to Campbell about how the pandemic has affected him personally and why he's helped promote the vaccines. They asked him about, of course, owning his business, how the pandemic has affected his business, how it infected employees, how they maybe were affected either by having COVID-19 or by loss of wages or by having to take time for their families that were affected by COVID-19. And then asked, so fast forward to today. Who hatched this vaccination plan? They approached the McDonald's PR people, and my restaurant happens to be in a community that's highly unvaccinated, Campbell had said. They asked if he's surprised. He said, I am, in that my friends were all, you've got to get this vaccine. So it does seem surprising that way. I got mine at TCF, of course, TCF Convention Center in Detroit, as soon as it was available. And I'm not surprised. There are a lot of people who are hesitant for various reasons. And maybe it's not all about concerns about the vaccine or the hesitation. Maybe it's about access, too. A friend of mine told me the other day that he and his wife just hadn't taken the time. They're doing this, they're doing that, they're traveling. And I said, what? What do you mean you haven't taken the time? Man, get the shot. What about your employees? He was asked, and he said, we put out an incentive. Hey, no pressure, but if you get vaccinated, you get $25 added to your paycheck. So they got them early, in March, I think. That was really huge for us to get people vaccinated so we can get more people comfortable and safe back and coming back into work. Some people just weren't comfortable coming back. He was asked also, what are your expectations for the Thursday vaccine clinic? He said, I'm hoping it's a huge turnout. We're giving away all smoothie drinks. We've got strawberry. We've got lemonade. And then was asked if they're picking up the cost for that or if McDonald's is. He said, we're sharing in the cost, but you know what? I can pick up the cost. It's not a big deal. We just want people to come out and get vaccinated and just be safe. And that is such a great story, hearing that a Detroit business owner, a Metro Detroit business owner, is doing his part and offering up some free products, trying to incentivize some people in his community where he saw a problem and said, hey, you know what? I'm noticing that a lot of my neighbors who may not have had proper access or may have had this reason or that reason because life gets in the way sometimes with your priorities and haven't gotten vaccinated, I'm going to give them an opportunity in their local area, in their neighborhood, with people that they trust to get their questions answered, and if they want to get vaccinated, and if they have the opportunity to give them that opportunity and get them vaccinated. So we love having stories like that. Great article from our friends over at Bridge Michigan Magazine, listed on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where you can find all of our articles each and every day, as well as helpful links from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, and many of our local municipalities. We've got a great show ahead of you today. On the other side of the break, I'll be speaking with Farhat Qazi, West Bloomfield entrepreneur and philanthropist, and the creator of Abraham Day. We'll talk about what exactly that is and when it's coming up and what you can expect in terms of festivities on that day. Kerri Vizena, the head of school at the Japhet School in Clawson, will join us at the bottom of the hour. And then in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Julie Carter, a U of M graduate student in environmental health sciences, who's been doing some interesting research. We'll also be joined by Clawson and Keisha Williams from the West Bloomfield Police Department during the 11 o'clock hour. And we'll cap off the show going from police to firefighters. We'll be speaking with Greg Flynn about an upcoming flu shot vaccine clinic that will be happening in West Bloomfield. That all coming up next. You are watching and listening to the Megacast on our family of television, radio, and other media outlets. The Megacast returns after this.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe from the studios here of our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM in West Bloomfield Township. We appreciate you joining in. You can tune in live every day, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on our family of television, radio, and other media outlets. Learn more about all the places you can tune in to the Megacast on our website at civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Children of Abraham Day will be commemorated on December 3rd, 2021. We're pleased to be joined by the creator of Children of Abraham Day, Farhat Qazi, with us now on the Megacast. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Appreciate having you on. So for those that maybe have not heard of Children of Abraham Day or are interested in what this is all about, give us an overview about what this celebration and this commemoration is.
Children of Abraham Day is go back all the way when from Prophet Noah and children of and Abraham. All these three main monotheistic religion, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, they all go back to Abraham, where all this started. So I created this day to celebrate our commonality than our differences. Because in recent history, so far, at least in my lifetime, what I have observed and noticed, the focus is, unfortunately, more on our differences than commonality. And I think this day will bring everybody together to celebrate our commonality than differences.
Why did you start the Children of Abraham Day? You mentioned that you've noticed that a lot of people are more focused on the differences between these three monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But are there other reasons that may have sparked this idea in your head to celebrate a day like this and try to bring these three communities, as well as the greater community that maybe doesn't practice these religions passionately or doesn't practice any religion at all, but bring the entire community together on a day like this?
Yes, I mean, even if someone is not really practicing Muslim, Christian, or Judaism, but still we have that connection with our communities, with families, which goes all the way back there. So celebrating this day, I think there are a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misunderstandings about each other. So I want all the communities and our children, especially the future generation, to understand better each other.
We're joined by Farhat Qazi. She is a West Bloomfield entrepreneur and philanthropist and the creator of Children of Abraham Day, which will be commemorated on December 3rd, 2021, and even has been recognized by the governor of the state of Michigan and commemorated by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And Farhat, on this day, what sort of activities or festivities or celebrations may be in tow for people that are wanting to participate in this and bring these communities together into a greater community that already exists in such mass here in southeastern Michigan?
Yes, this day is what I proposed to Governor Whitmer, and she approved the proclamation for this day, is the first Friday of December every year. So I want community and especially the schools, our educators in school system, if we can celebrate this day and if this can become a calendar day, is my wish and my vision. To celebrate this, I mean, community, what I can suggest, maybe a lot of activities in school, like how we do during Christmas time, when kids bring some gifts for each other before Christmas, and Christmas choral. I wrote a poem about this day, so if we can really sing that in schools. And I have a website. I will really encourage educators, schools, and communities to look at it. It's childrenofabrahamday.org, where I propose some lessons and some activities for children to celebrate this day.
We're joined by Farhat Qazi. She is a West Bloomfield entrepreneur and philanthropist and the founder of Children of Abraham Day, which this year will be commemorated on December 3rd, 2021. And Farhat, earlier on, you mentioned that some of the origins of this celebration is to recognize and acknowledge many of the similarities between these three monotheistic religions, that being Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. What are some of those similarities that people may not be aware of or may not be commonly recognizing, but are really similar in how these religions either are practiced or some of the origins of these three separate religions?
Sure. I can maybe summarize a little bit, but
Sure.
If you go on my website, I explain really well in those lessons. But yes, Abraham is father of these three monotheistic religions. And as I think most of us know, but obviously some of us don't know, Abraham's two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, Christianity and Judaism came from Isaac lineage, and Muhammad came from Ishmael lineage. So basically, they are from the same tribe, but different branches of the religion. So that is a big one, I think, like a big commonality between them. And from religious point of view, there are a lot of similarities. They all believe in the same God, and they all had prophets and religious text, which is common among three.
We're joined by Farhat Qazi. She is a West Bloomfield entrepreneur and philanthropist and the founder and creator of Children of Abraham Day, which will be celebrated this year throughout the state on December 3rd, 2021. Learn more information at childrenofabraham.org. And Farhat, the recognition of this, the lessons of this day will be presented in different ways, or should be presented in different ways to different groups of people, whether it be adults or whether it be children. Will there be some variation in how this day is recognized and how this day may be discussed between these different groups? Because for some adults, they may have been practicing these three religions in some way, or shape, or form throughout their entire life and not known that there were these similarities. And for children, it's important to also help them recognize that, sure, there are differences all across our society in a variety of different ways, but we should also really take time to recognize the similarities so that we can recognize our shared worldview and our shared experiences.
Sure, that's true, because the focus has been more on differences, and unfortunately more negatively, which really bothers me. And so far, we created more hatred than loving and uniting. I think it's very important and it's very timely, especially in this era and for our future children, to understand each other instead of not liking. I shouldn't use word hatred, but misunderstanding, I would say.
Yeah, and we've seen incidents of that even recently, and especially as we're approaching a day coming up soon, like we are the 20th anniversary of the attacks on September 11th. We definitely saw in the wake of those attacks a significant rise in Islamophobia and hate crimes against people that do practice Islam, or those that even appear, so to speak, for lack of better terms, like they practice Islam. And those are horrible incidents that continue to happen even to this day, especially as we're approaching a day like that. So coming in 2 months later after that, as we continue to learn more about each other and continue to reconsider each of our interactions in society, something like this becomes that much more important. We're joined by Farhat Qazi. She is a West Bloomfield entrepreneur and philanthropist and creator of Children of Abraham Day. And as we recognize those negative situations that we have seen pop up over the years, those conflicts between these communities, and the recognition of the differences that are between these three communities, why is it more important now Or what is it different now to address this situation and address these issues and address these commonalities, given what we've been through in the last year and a half, what we continue to have conversations about on a more broad level now than ever before in our society?
You know what, I don't know if you know, as being an immigrant in this country, I'm an immigrant, and my kids were born here, raised here, went to school here. They are American-born kids, and they have their Islamic identity too. And I started this day because something happened in school for my daughter, and that was when she was in school having a religious world religion class, and she was very excited about it. And of course, like other religions and Judaism, Christianity, and I was working with her on her lessons. And when the next session was about Islam, and she was very excited, like, oh, okay, this is my religion. I can ask my mom questions about this and that. And the kid sitting next to her, I would not mention the kid name or school name, but I just want to say this because why it's important to me personally. And the kid said, I already have bad feelings about this religion. And she was so young, I mean, 6th grade, what does she know? What does this kid mean by? And she came home, and I could see in her eyes, I will never forget that look in her eyes, like she was wondering, she couldn't ask me really, what does this mean? Why it is bad? And that day, believe me, I could not sleep that night. And I said, you know what, maybe, you know what, I'm an immigrant. Okay, I have an option to live here or not. But my kid is American-born kid and Muslim. One way was, okay, I can go to school, I can yell at people, I can complain, I can just create something negative, but I choose not to. And that day I decided like there should be something which, but the kid, okay, the kid was not like, okay, what does kid know? Obviously that is coming from a kitchen table, from home conversations, sure, which we really need to focus on. When we talk to our kids, we need to do positive, talk positively about, and all of us, I'm not saying like whether Islam, Muslims, or Judaism, Christianity, sure, we all went through, just think about Nazis time, think about Islamophobia, or anything, like all of us, we went through a lot throughout the history. And I think it's about time, like we should not teach our kids that hatred. We should come together and talk about commonality and teach our children respect each other and learn about each other, because it all goes back to one person where it all started. Of course, we have different practices and different maybe belief system. It's okay. And but we have a lot in common than our differences. That's how I see it.
And they have similar origins, as you said. They all trace back to Abraham. But on top of that, they all three of these religions, that being Christianity, Islam, Judaism, they all have similar values when it comes down to it, and similar messages as well.
Sure, yeah, no doubt about it. Especially when it comes to morals, ethics, religion, how we were taught, a lot of commonality, I would say.
We're joined by Farhat Qazi. She is a West Bloomfield entrepreneur and philanthropist and the creator and founder of Children of Abraham Day, which will be commemorated this year on December 3rd, 2021. Learn more at childrenofabrahamday.org. And Farhat, are there going to be specific events in our local area that people maybe can attend, or whether it be virtual or whether it be in person on this day to commemorate Children of Abraham Day, or how can they participate in these activities and go through this experience?
Sure. When I started this, then COVID happened. So obviously I couldn't celebrate the way I wanted to. So it's been 2 years now. I only celebrated with one school. That was not like big, just few children and teachers, and we were all wearing masks and sitting apart from each other. But this year, I don't know how it will be, but I will definitely encourage through this platform all the educators, school system, school directors, and the communities, please participate and celebrate on this day, the first Friday of December. Please join. Celebrate in your own schools, in your own communities. It's not like, okay, I'm going to be like in one place and we are all celebrating, but I would encourage everyone to go on childrenofAbrahamDay.org website, and please look all the things I put up there. And I'm here, I'm available, whoever wants to contact me and talk about it. I can meet anyone who wants to meet and discuss, especially the schools and the communities.
Well, Farhat, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us and introducing some of our viewers to Children of Abraham Day. We appreciate it. Farhat Qazi, she is West Bloomfield Entrepreneur, Philanthropist, and creator of Children of Abraham Day. You can find more information about all the activities on that day and learn more about the commonalities between these three major monotheistic religions, that being Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, on her website, childrenofabrahamday.org. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll be talking about the new school year. We'll be joined by the head of school at the Japhet School in Clawson to discuss how education at this specific school is going to be undertaken in the 2021-2022 school year, what COVID-19 restrictions and regulations and protocols are in place at this school, and learn more about how an independent institution like the Japhet School is addressing COVID-19 as we enter a third school year now affected by this pandemic. That coming up. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you. Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation. Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keith here in our studios in West Bloomfield Township alongside our studio producer and board operator Calvin Brown, who joins us in the studio each and every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, alongside you, viewing us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 WBFH, the Biff on the radio, and online, civiccentertv.com, as well as on the My Michigan TV app, both on your smartphone and on your smart TV, and online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on mymitv.com or mymytv.com. We're pleased to be joined now by Kerri Vizena. She is the head of school at the Japhet School in Clawson, joining us now on the Megacast. Kerri, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Tyler. It's great to join with you again.
Appreciate having you on. So for those unfamiliar with the Japhet School, how does it vary from other schools in our local area?
Sure. Japhet School was founded almost 50 years ago by a group of parents that wanted more morals or ethics, a balance of character and education, academics taught to their children. So that's the foundation of Japhet, is a blend, a strength of character education and strong academics to preschool through 8th grade students.
So is this an independent school, or is this within a school district partnership?
It is an independent school. So we are part of AIMS, which is the Association of Independent Schools in Michigan. Yes.
And how does that vary your school's approach to this COVID-19 school year? Because we spoke earlier on in the week with one of the executives of the Michigan Association of Non-Public Schools who had mentioned that those non-public schools are still under the same regulations at the county level and the state level as public schools. Is that also the case for an independent school like the Japhet School?
Yes, absolutely correct. The health department governs, and we know right now that we're under an emergency order for masks, and certainly we are abide by that and would with the safety of our students and our faculty and staff.
So prior to the mask mandate, what was the masking policy and the COVID protocols that were in place at the Japhet School? And I ask that just for an overview of the school's opinion and approach on addressing COVID-19 in school facilities in this school year, because obviously at this point in time, Oakland County has a school mask mandate in place across the board for those that are vaccinated or unvaccinated. It does not matter one way or another. But what was the Japhet School's approach prior to the mask mandate? What's the opinion of the school on what is the best for its students in terms of COVID protocols to prevent the spread in their school?
Certainly. I'd like to go back to March of 2020 when the governor gave the order to close all schools in the state of Michigan. And at that point, we immediately pivoted over the weekend to virtual or remote learning. And each of our students went home with a Chromebook. And those few months through the end of the school year, we remained remote. And then through the summer of 2020, we put together a very thorough and comprehensive document that's a health and safety protocol for on-campus learning. And with that, parents were surveyed. There was a strong partnership with our parents and our trustees, faculty, staff, administration. And through that came a very clear and comprehensive document from hand washing, hygiene, to masking, to social distancing, to protocols that students should only come to school feeling in good health. And that really did prevent a great deal of, I think, any problems that might have occurred, is that parents took that very seriously, and students only came when they were in good health. And so that eliminated anything that could come onto campus. We take it very seriously. Parents know that the health and safety of their students and for faculty and staff is my top priority. So, and then, yes.
No, please continue on, sorry.
No, and so moving forward, I actually had not made a decision prior to the mandate with the masks. I was watching, certainly consulting staff and parents as well, and wondering what direction this should go, but it was very fluid. And I watched other districts, and just as I was going to announce a mask mandate to start the school year, the health department did come out with a mandate. So we were on the same wavelength, and we will continue this until the order is lifted, and then I will take a really hard look at it due to the numbers and the health climate, so to speak. But the health and safety is number one of our students.
We're joined by Kerri Vizena. She is the head of school at the Japhet School in Clawson with us today on the Megacast. And Kerri, the school underwent some redesigning and even added a new STEM lab recently. Care to provide us with some details on what some of those other redesigning features were, and then talk about, of course, the STEM lab?
You know, after having over 18 months of, really a sense of heaviness that we had to work through in the journey through the pandemic, and not that that's over, but it became clear to me that when we did receive the grant for the STEM lab, which fully will facilitate a STEM lab for our 5th through 8th graders and our entire school, that we needed a classroom that could house that. So doing that, it meant that every classroom, with the exception of our preschool, would be relocated. So that would be like in your home deciding we're going to pack every room and we're just going to paint it. We're going to move out and we're going to shift. And that's what we did through the summer. It was a huge undertaking, but every classroom has a new look, a new perspective, a sense of refreshing. And teachers, although it was a lot of hard work through the summer, are really excited to move forward, and our STEM lab is just stellar. Everyone's excited. Leading into that, we have an open house tonight, which will be the first time since March 2020 that our parents have been in the building. And this is something that is just a huge event for us and a lot of anticipation, and we're just all excited.
Also, the middle school in the Japhet School is changing its perspective on teaching, its approach to teaching as well, going to what's called a partnership teaching model for the coming school year. What does that mean? How is that going to be of benefit to the students?
Certainly. We had a class was 5th through 6th grade, which was called intermediate class, and then 7th and 8th was called upper class. So in taking a hard look at this and what would be best for our students with our intimate class sizes, I like to call them, we combined our 5th through 8th graders. They moved into the largest classroom that we have, and it's quite sizable, and with the STEM lab. And then so those students will all be in the classroom learning together, yet separate, pulled out in smaller groups when necessary. There'll be like a flow of regrouping depending on a topic, depending on an interest of a student. So we call it partner teaching rather than co-teaching, because there's 2 teachers and they'll each have their own homerooms, but they're in the same room. So it's an interesting concept and approach, and I think all our students will benefit from that.
We're joined by Kerri Vizena. She is the head of school at the Japhet School in Clawson with us today on the Megacast. And Kerri, this reimagined format, it ultimately goes back to this question of how did the pandemic impact your school's approach to educating and also your approach to providing learning opportunities to children? Did it change those, and how did that affect planning for programs in this upcoming school year and going forward?
Certainly. Well, we like to think of ourselves as an experiential-based classrooms where we're hands-on, lots of projects, project-based learning. So when the pandemic did hit, we know that we had to be separated 6 feet, so that took away having partners in learning or getting together in groups and enjoying hands-on experiences. Desks had to come in and tables were removed so that they were learning more in an individual manner, but it didn't lessen what they were learning. We just had to approach it in a different fashion. And some of this, there were silver linings that came about, new approaches for teachers, individual teachers. They would have their own new approaches to teaching a certain topic, but yet we did a lot with videos. We had a lot with Zoom calls where I can give one example of an aeronautics engineer from Blue Origin visited virtually with our students and was part of the latest launch of the rocket that went into space. So they were studying the moon. That was at the middle school level. and they had an authentic speaker speak to them about what it meant to travel into space and the preparation. So we leaned on our technology. We leaned on learning more outside of our building as well. The walls just kind of came down, so to speak. And moving forward, with having to have masks this year, we will be using the outdoors more. And we know that the mandate is for indoors only. We will be, when the students are outdoors in their outdoor learning spaces, which we do have for each classroom, they will not have to wear masks. They'll be in fresh air. They will be socially distant. But we also have 2 stellar parks that are just in walking distance from school, which we will use as part of our campus. And I think that will certainly broaden the scope of the students' learning. One is Tenhave Woods, which is right behind Royal Oak High School. And the other one is just a brand new park, which is Normandy Oaks. And it's down Normandy Road as well, within walking distance. It's 40 acres. It has an oak savanna natural habitat area, streams, ponds, learning environments that we will take advantage of.
We're joined by Kerri Vizena. She is the head of school at the Japhet School with us today on the Megacast. And Kerri, according to my notes, the Japhet School still has some limited enrollment availability for this school year. How can parents address that if they would like to enroll their kids at the Japhet School, and what grade levels are still available for enrollment?
Right. Our third, and thank you for asking that, our 3rd through 8th graders. So we do have limited enrollment there. And if someone was interested in learning more about Japhet School, they could call us or visit our website. So, which is japhetschool.org. And all of our information is on there. I can also give the phone number if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, it's 248-585-9150.
All right, we were joined by Kerri Vizena. She is the head of school at the Japhet School, joining us today on the Megacast. And then, Kerri, you mentioned before that Japhet School, of course, is complying with all of the COVID-19 regulations that are in place for Oakland County, through Oakland County, their mask mandate and so on and so forth. That mandates all students and staff and faculty, regardless of vaccination staff, wear masks indoors. And there's been some focus in your school district of moving some classes outdoors to have more of those more normal interactions, but also integrate the outdoors into educational opportunities. In terms of your staff and your faculty, some educational institutions, particularly universities, have put in place their own mandates for vaccinations of staff. What is the vaccination status to the point that you can provide to us of your staff and your faculty, and are there any requirements in place or that may be put into place going forward in terms of requirements for vaccination?
Good question. Because we're small, and I know our faculty intimately, we're like a family, there was no issue with compliance. I'll just leave it at that. So, okay?
Okay. All right. We are joined by Kerri Vizena. She is the head of school at the Japhet School out of Clawson with us on the Megacast. Just another couple minutes with you, Kerri, before we'll say goodbye today. Is there anything else at this moment in time that would be important for our audience to know, or something interesting for people to know about the Japhet School going forward?
Just that how much that we place on character education. And I think in today's world, that's so important. There's so many issues worldwide that come to us, and certainly our children, children in high school that are dealing with issues that may seem very confusing and troubling. And I think to give a strong foundation of character and how to treat others is so important as we launch our students out into the world. And they do go out into the world using the character, and our alums let us know how much that has meant to them, and we value that greatly. So that's what I would just, like to add.
We appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us today, Kerri.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a good day.
You as well. Kerri Vizena joins us. She is the head of school at the Japhet School located in Clawson. Learn more information at japhetschool.org. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll be speaking with a U of M graduate student in environmental and health sciences who's been doing some very interesting research lately over at U of M. That coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in our studios here in West Bloomfield at our flagship station, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. You're listening to the Megacast on your radio homes for the show, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, as well as 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. On the television side, you're watching us on public television in the greater West Bloomfield area on Civic Center TV and in the Birmingham Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, both of our TV channels, Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. You can find us online, civiccentertv.com, as well as on the My Michigan TV app, both on your smartphone, which you can find on the iOS App Store, as well as on the Android App Store, and on your smart TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Samsung TV. You can find My Michigan Television on a number of different outlets. Just search My Michigan TV and join us on Facebook each and every day, live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, on Facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and Facebook.com/LakesFM. Well, climate change continues to be a major topic of conversation across the state of Michigan and around the world, especially here in the Great Lakes state recently, as we've had a number of 100-year storms, 1,000-year storms, as they've been called by some officials, and those have caused a number of different issues and addressed a number of different and brought a number of different other issues such as infrastructure to the forefront. We're pleased to be joined by a graduate student from the University of Michigan's School of Environment and Sustainability, Julie Carter, with us now on the Megacast. Julie, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So you've been doing some research at the University of Michigan along with Dr. Patricia Coman, who co-authored a recent study in the Journal of Environmental Studies and Sciences entitled Assessing Perceptions and Priorities for Health Impacts of Climate. And one of the interesting things that was found in that study was that more than 3/4, or 77% as it was marked, of local health departments surveyed across Michigan agree that climate change would impact their jurisdiction in the next 20 years, but only 35% of those officials said climate change was a priority in their department. Why right now, especially as we're in the times that we're in, what we've experienced over the summer, particularly in terms of inclement weather, should it be jarring to people to see those numbers where these health departments, 77% as it's listed of those surveyed, recognize climate change as an issue, but that less than half of them, by a significant margin, less than half of these departments that were surveyed then say that this is something that's a priority for them going forward?
Yeah, definitely. So that disconnect was one of the really interesting things that we found in the survey, as you mentioned. And I think, that's something that people should be aware of, because it is one space where climate is going to have a really tangible impact currently, and especially into the future in the public health arena through a variety of ways in Michigan, including some of the infrastructure pieces that you alluded to, water quality, air quality, things like expanded territories and ranges for vectors of disease. And so all of those things obviously have implications on people's health, and maybe increasing the number of things, or at least exacerbating the number of things that public health departments have to deal with on the front lines. And so being prepared for any increases in those sorts of things would be right in their purview. And if that's not happening, that's something to make note of.
Especially in the context of what we have undergone since March of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. What are some of those adverse effects of not addressing climate change from a health department perspective going forward, not only during a situation like this pandemic, but in other crises that may arise in the future going forward 20 plus years?
Certainly. So one thing that we thought about in, working on the paper, which we were doing in 2020 during kind of the earlier height of the pandemic, are kind of the way that those two things are going to intertwine, the pandemic and eventually future pandemics and some of the impacts of climate change. So a lot of our public health strategies for dealing with heat waves, or when a dam fails, as it did last spring, is to move people together for shelter, for cooling. And if you can't have people safely congregating together in a cooling shelter or other sort of shelter as a respite from any of these sorts of events because of COVID, it leaves a question, what do you do when these things kind of butt heads in the public health arena?
We're joined by Julie Carter. She's a U of M graduate student in the Department of Environment and Sustainability with us today on the Megacast, who did some recent studies alongside Dr. Patricia Coleman, really interesting studies surveying local health departments across the state of Michigan and their approach to climate change as a major issue and their priorities in regards to climate change in the next 20 years, and found some pretty jarring results and are trying to address that, as climate change does affect public health significantly. And going forward, Julie, I want to also ask you about how these local health departments, according to your expertise and to Dr. Coleman's expertise, what are some ways that these health departments can address climate change? Because on one hand, it does affect public health in a direct way, but public health officials aren't necessarily those that one would conventionally think are on the front lines of addressing an issue like climate change.
Right, and that's definitely some best practice to incorporate some of those climate impacts may be. One thing, and there is literature from other states suggesting this, is that there's a lot of opportunity potentially to, instead of trying to create, brand new programs within public health that address climate change and building that up from the ground level, is to kind of incorporate or fold in the climate aspect and the way that climate might impact public health into already existing things. And so as one example of that potential opportunity, a lot of public health departments already have programs in place to monitor ticks, say, that could spread Lyme disease. And climate change is projected to expand the range of various disease vectors, including ticks. And so folding in the climate piece and the expanded range piece based on climate change into the existing monitoring program is one way that you don't have to necessarily start from scratch, but just trying to fold in the impact of climate into existing relevant programs.
We're joined by Julie Carter. She is a U of M graduate student and researcher in environment and sustainability at the University of Michigan, with us on the Megacast today. And Julie, if these health departments aren't properly prioritizing and then on top of that properly addressing these climate change issues like tracking the impact of ticks that may be spreading Lyme disease. How badly, depending on the size of those departments, could that affect local communities of varying different sizes, demographics, and socioeconomic backgrounds in the future?
Sure. So if local health departments, for a myriad of reasons, aren't doing that sort of preparation and that sort of work, it could definitely be an issue now and in the future. There's a lot of research that shows that local public health officials and departments are some of the most trusted actors in the community. And so they're often like one of the first sources of information that people will turn to. And so that's a crucial piece and link in the chain of information. And if they're, for whatever reason, not able or not doing this sort of preparation, you're going to be missing that link in the chain.
And something that we've seen be very evident during the pandemic, not only our local health departments or state health departments, but really at a federal level as well, there seemed to have been a almost complete lack of preparation for a situation like a pandemic, even though we've had incidents in recent years such as H1N1 or the swine flu or Zika virus that weren't pandemic levels but had reached epidemic levels in some cases, and still we were left unprepared by these health departments. It's a similar but also a different issue on some levels, climate change, but that evidence is there to show just what happens when we aren't prepared on a public health level to address these major issues.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I stated before, public health departments, especially at the local level, are really, some of the first people in line to contend with any of these things, whether they be diseases that crop up or environmental health hazards that develop. And so definitely them being prepared and them being ready to be a source of information and a source of care on the ground is very important for any of those health challenges.
Julie Carter joins us on the Megacast. She is a grad student in the School of Environment and Sustainability at the University of Michigan with us today. And Julie, where should these health departments start in addressing climate change on a larger scale, on a greater level? Because as it's marked in this study, 77% of the health departments that you surveyed and that Dr. Coleman's survey agree that climate change will impact their jurisdiction in the next 20 years, but only 35% of those surveyed said that climate change was a priority. And we also talked about the variations in size and the variations in funding and support from the community and at the county level for a lot of these health departments. So in a general sense, regardless of the size, regardless of the financial backing, where is a good spot for these health departments to start addressing climate change now so they're not chasing it down the road?
Yeah, so the good news with all of this is that there are resources both from the federal government as well as from the state government available for some of these local departments to start thinking about climate change and associated programs. So at the federal level, the CDC has a informational resource as well as a financial resource, a grant program through their BRACE, which is building resiliency against climate effects, is the program. And so they both have informational resources, documents, literature, as well as grant funding opportunities for states and cities to do some of this climate preparation work. And the state of Michigan is actually a grant recipient from that CDC BRACE framework. And so the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, MDHHS, at the state level, obviously, is also a great resource. They have a climate and health program that's doing a lot of this work and also making those outreach efforts to localities to try to bring them on board in a more meaningful way with the impacts of climate. And so both federally and at the state level, there are resources out there.
We're joined by Julie Carter. She was a graduate student at the University of Michigan in the School of Environment and Sustainability with us on the Megacast. Julie, how can we find more information on this study and on the work that you've done with Dr. Patricia Coleman at the University of Michigan?
Sure. So the study is public access, so it's available to everyone. It shouldn't be behind a paywall or anything at the Journal of Environmental Studies and Sciences. People can also feel free to email me at my U of M email address that I can give you if they have specific questions that aren't addressed in the study.
Julie, anything else that would be important for our audience to know on this issue of addressing climate change from a public health perspective at the public health department level going forward, or anything else interesting that we maybe didn't touch on today that was found in your study with Dr. Coleman?
And I think I would just emphasize that a lot of people, myself included, may not always be thinking about the local health department or even know where it is, know what it is in their area, but that when it actually comes down to it, like, it's a really important resource to be able to reach out to, as we've seen really highlighted during this COVID-19 pandemic. And so being aware of, local issues and funding issues and all of those sorts of things around public health locally may not always be on the radar, but isn't that we should be looking out for in our own communities.
Well, Julie, we appreciate your time, appreciate your insight. Thank you for enlightening us on this connection between public health and climate change and why it's so important for those to be addressed together going forward.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Julie Carter, graduate student at the University of Michigan in the School of Environment and Sustainability, joining us today on the Megacast. We thank her very much. We're going to take a quick break, but before we take a break, I want to remind you again, you can find all of these interviews online on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. So if you tune in, and this is a really important topic to you, climate change is a really important topic, public health is a really important topic, maybe you haven't thought about the dichotomy between those two issues, and you want to get some of this insight from Julie and some of what she found with Dr. Coleman over at the University of Michigan, but you just tuned in and missed it. In this case, it's not too bad. Don't worry, don't fret. You will find that on our website at civiccentertv.com/Megacast later on today, and you can also watch our full episodes at the end of the day, each and every day, as we post them on our website. Those will be available at civiccentertv.com/Megacast, and we make it easy for you. You can click the Watch Full Episodes link, watch each of our full 2-hour-long episodes start to finish at your own leisure. And then if there's specific interviews, like our interview with Julie, like our interviews earlier on in today's show, and those coming up after our break and going forward, you'll be able to find those at civiccentertv.com/Megacast by clicking on Watch Full Interviews, as well as learn more about all of our partnering stations, not only here in southeastern Michigan, but all across the Great Lakes state, as they provide many and varied programs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to their various communities, and interesting content from all around the state of Michigan through My Michigan TV, which includes some documentary content, some news content, certainly talk shows like this, and Steve Leto Live that follows us each and every day of the work week at 12 noon. And you can find all of the information on these partnering stations and more about the Megacast on civiccentertv.com/Megacast, including talk to us here at the Megacast. Give us some suggestions if there's somebody you'd like us to talk to in the state of Michigan, something interesting that maybe we haven't learned about yet, maybe we haven't seen, and as we scour through the news and as we talk through all of our communications channels to find interesting and important topics and people to speak to across the state of Michigan. If you have a suggestion for us, we have a form on that website, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you can send us a message, give us suggestions, and let us know what you think on some of these topics as well. And then join us on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus to find more of that information, more of that scientific research that's being done by people like Julie Carter, people like Dr. Patricia Coleman, about a number of different issues, particularly in this case about COVID-19, but directly from reliable sources who are experts on these topics, from the Centers for Disease Control, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, and many of our local municipalities. Because what happens in West Bloomfield Township is different than what happens in Birmingham. What happens in Keagle Harbor is different than what happens in Livonia, and those differences can be important to you, to your family, to your local area, and to your home. And so you want to make sure that you're keeping up on that, and an easy way to find all of that information in one location without scouring through the internet and trying to weed through what is truthful, what is not, what maybe is full of misinformation, what maybe is too opinionated and not from an actual journalist or from an actual researcher on the front lines. We provide those resources. We do the research for you and find those resources that will provide you that information in a reliable sense and with updates throughout the days and the weeks ahead as we continue through this COVID-19 pandemic. Again, civiccentertv.com/Coronavirus. coronavirus. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, I'll be joined by both Clawson and Keisha Williams from the West Bloomfield Police Department to talk about our police dispatchers and the way that policing has incorporated technology in recent years to make dispatch a lot easier, because Keisha's job, being the dispatch manager in West Bloomfield, not only affects our police, it also affects our firefighters and our EMS. And Kurt Lawson also joins me, the Deputy Police Chief in West Bloomfield and their Public Information Officer, to talk about how policing has changed and how technology has helped them make progress as well. That coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
211, how can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
With our friends on the front lines, including those over at the West Bloomfield Police Department. We're pleased to be joined now by Dispatch Manager Keisha Williams, as well as Deputy Police Chief Kurt Lawson on the Megacast. Keisha, Kurt, thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. Great to see you, Tyler.
Yeah, good to see you too as well. So Keisha, let's start with you as the dispatch manager over at the Police Department's 911 Communications Center. Tell us a little bit about your career and how those experiences that you've had previously in your career helped you find success in your current role with the Police Department.
Well, I would say it all began in the military. I was in communications there, and it just translated over into the civilian side of being a public safety dispatcher. I've been a public safety dispatcher for many, many years. And with that, I grew up through the ranks, so to speak, holding as many positions as I could throughout. And by doing so, it helped me to see and understand what it is that dispatchers need and want. It's a difficult occupation, and especially since it's shift work, and not everyone is cut out to do shift work. So having an understanding of that has helped a great deal, and seeing how life unfolds with people, it helps to have a good understanding of people and life itself, I would say.
An organization has to be vitally important in a situation like that, because there is so much to manage. You're not only pointing our officers and our other first responders in the right direction, but you're also collecting information that is coming in from people in the community at their worst hour, at their at an absolute high stress time that they need help right away, and they're trying to get all this information out to you. And so not only collecting all of that, but also managing your staff and making sure that they're in their best position possible to do their job as best as possible. That has to come with some major organization. So what changes have you made from your past experience and from your experience communicating with their dispatchers and with the leaders in the police department in your time with West Bloomfield?
I would say dispatchers are, we talk about unsung heroes, and you're really talking about dispatchers. They're never seen. They're here 24/7. They're never the voice out front, always the voice behind. And I think that working at this department, they have helped with bringing the dispatchers to the forefront, for people to see who they are and know what they are doing. And I would also say One of those things is also we've engaged in emergency medical and emergency fire dispatching, which has helped the dispatchers to be able to keep up with the community in terms of, we have a lot of medicals here in West Bloomfield area in the Tri-Cities. So having a software program that actually helps them with their calls has been really great for the community and for the dispatchers.
Keisha Williams joins us on the Megacast alongside Kurt Lawson. She is the dispatch manager of the West Bloomfield Police Department 911 Communications Center, and Kurt Lawson is the deputy police chief of the West Bloomfield Police Department. And Keisha, let's talk more about the impact of technology on first responders in the modern age, especially over the last several years. How much greater of a role has technology played in making dispatch more efficient and more effective so that the police department, the fire department, and so on can provide better service to the people of West Bloomfield and the surrounding area?
Technology is at the forefront of what we do now. We have CAD, which is computer-aided dispatch systems, and that integrates with GIS technology. It helps us to have a more valid location meter for where citizens are when they need assistance. There's the AVLs in the vehicle to help us to know where cars are at. Technology has also gone to texty, where you can text to 911. That's the basis coming from Oakland County. We are hoping in the future, near future, to also have that on our side. There's just so much. Even as we speak now, there's some states that are beta testing videos where you can send videos to 911 in reference to things that are happening. So technology is definitely at the forefront of where we're at right now.
We're joined by Keisha Williams, the dispatch manager for West Bloomfield Police Department's 911 Communications Center. We're also joined by Deputy Police Chief of the West Bloomfield Police Department, Kurt Lawson. And Kurt, we've spoken already a bit about Keisha's experience and how her leadership has impacted her department at the police department, the 911 Communications Center so far, but across the board in the police department, especially now as there have been so many more calls and for accountability of our police departments, how much more important across the board, whether it be those that are managing officers or those that are in the dispatch center and other areas of the department, how much more important now than ever is it to have quality leadership on your team in a police department, not only to better serve the community, but to make sure that you are training your officers and training your other employees to be better servants of the community?
That's a great question, Tyler. And obviously, I think leadership, management, and law enforcement is essential, especially in this day and age. And I think we've had those things in place here at West Bloomfield for as long as I've been here, for 26 years. As far as the communications team and our dispatch center, Lieutenant Tilley, Chief Pat, and myself, we oversaw the dispatch center for a number of years, but we really wanted to take that dispatch center up to another level. And we were simply not capable of doing that by ourselves. We needed someone to come in that had the experience, that had the knowledge to build a team, to bring that technology in, that had all of those leadership skills to take us to the next level. And that's where, hats off to Keisha. She has done a fantastic job, and we have reached that next level. We continue to build on the building blocks that she started, and she'll continue to see through into the future. So we're very much looking forward to, in the next year or two, getting a new state-of-the-art dispatch center, continuing to attract the very best talent, and putting a very good leadership team in place, which will be overseen by Keisha Williams.
So Kurt, just continuing on the topic of leadership, because leadership in a general sense has a number of different qualities, but those qualities sometimes don't translate as well from one area of life to another. So in terms of working in the police department, whether you are the dispatch manager such as Keisha is to your right, or you are Lieutenant Tilley or Chief Patton or so on, or other officers that are out in the front lines each and every day, especially in modern policing, what makes for a good leader that ends up translating to being a quality police officer and police employee?
Well, I think it starts with integrity. You have vision and the ability to build a team. It can't be a one-person show. You have to do it together. And once you attract that talent, you tell them where you want to go. You give them the tools to get there. And we've seen it day in and day out with Miss Williams. We get to where we want to go. We've gotten to that next level. Just absolutely outstanding job by her. And that's why I wanted to have her on today to kind of showcase the incredible talent that we brought in here. And she'll tell you, it's just not about Keisha. It's about the incredible team that she has put together. And they do an outstanding job day in and day out.
So Keisha, let's continue on that now. We're joined by Keisha Williams, Dispatch Manager at the West Bloomfield Police Department 911 Communications Center, as well as Kurt Lawson, Deputy Police Chief of the West Bloomfield Police Department. So we've talked more on a broad sense about what is needed to be a quality leader in a police department across the board in the modern age. In terms of dispatchers, Keisha, what makes for a quality dispatcher?
Oh my goodness. I would say for a quality dispatcher, someone who has strong self-control emotionally wise, as far as being able to handle the many calls that come in, the needs of the first responders that we sent out. So I would definitely say strong emotional self-control, the ability to be empathetic, to be sensitive and patient with those that are calling in for assistance. All those things are needed. We're
joined by Keisha Williams. She's the Dispatch Manager of the West Bloomfield Police Department 911 Communications Center, alongside Kurt Lawson, Deputy Police Chief, with us today on the Megacast. And in a typical day, what does a dispatcher experience?
Well, I'm going to first say there is no typical day in the life of a dispatcher, because you have no idea what is going to happen next. And in today's world, that can be anything at any given moment. So while you may come in and you greet your partners, those that are going off duty, you're coming in, you share what has happened. But in that moment, anything, again, can happen, and you must be prepared. We are always ready for whatever will come next. It's oftentimes you get the same types of calls, but then there are those times when you get things that you have no idea. You have no idea. It's the training that you have, the tools that have been given to you that will help you to get through the situation and move on to the next.
You need to be able to be cool and calm, as you said earlier on, and you need to be able to manage stressful situations, but also just the general stress of the volume of calls, of the stresses of regular life in the age that we're in, especially during the pandemic. What are some of the coping skills or the methods that are most effective for your dispatchers to be able to manage that stress and continue to provide quality service to the community, but also not have the stresses and the anxieties of the job that are just a natural part of it take a toll on them personally?
Well, actually, I would have to say it is what this department has recently implemented that has helped the dispatchers a great deal, as well as I do believe everyone within the police department, of knowing that you have people that can help you through those times. And I think Deputy Chief Lawson would be the best person to speak on that.
Okay. Yeah, Kurt, anything to say on that matter?
Well, something that we've seen in law enforcement for many years is that, we're kind of portrayed as these tough guys and girls, and that we don't need to ask for help. And there's this certain stigma of asking for help in law enforcement. And we're really trying to break down that barrier. We created a peer support team here of informal leaders that are specifically trained, they're specially trained to be able to sit down and listen to people that might be going through troubled times, to give them coping skills. We also have a psychologist that liaisons with this team. We've started to implement debriefs. So if we have a very stressful situation or a major incident, that everyone's going to sit down and they're going to talk about what happened, what we did well, what we didn't do so well, talk a little bit about our feelings. So just kind of breaking down the barriers that have been in place in law enforcement for so many years. That's what we're trying to do, and we continue to look for ways where we can bring our people help when they really need it.
We're joined by Kurt Lawson, Deputy Police Chief, and Keisha Williams, the Dispatch Manager for the West Bloomfield Police Department 911 Communications Center. And Keisha, just another couple minutes before we'll say goodbye to the two of you today. For those out in the community who hopefully don't need to be making 911 calls very often, if ever, but if and when they come into a situation where they do, to best help our dispatchers provide the best service to those people, but also to the community and to our police and fire departments, what would you suggest that they do to best help the situation on their end?
I would say have patience, remain calm. We understand that what is happening to you is the most critical thing that could be happening. We do understand that, but we also have questions that we need to ask in order to help the first responders. There's safety reasons why we ask some of the questions that we ask. And we just ask that you just be patient and know that the questions are for your benefit to help you.
Well, Keisha, Kurt, we appreciate having you on. Just another minute or so before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that you would like to say today, or any other information that would be important for our audience to know at this time about the police department, about the dispatch center, and so on?
Well, one of the things as a leader I try to do is we want to put the right leadership in place, which we have. We want to bring in the best equipment, which we're going to do and have been doing. But we want to get the very best talent for her team. So we continue to look for people that might be interested in being professional dispatchers. That's someone that has to remain calm, understand the techniques of de-escalation, be able to multitask. But if you're interested, we're certainly interested in you, and reach out to our human resource department or to Keisha, and we'd love to interview you and get you to be part of our team. And I think we have one of the very best teams around, and we continue to get better every day.
Well, we appreciate having both of you on today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior.
These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance.
They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in our studios in West Bloomfield Township as we continue to bring you news about COVID-19 and other important topics affecting not only the Oakland County area in southeastern Michigan, but all of us across the Great Lakes state. We're joined, of course, by Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, as well as Birmingham Area Municipal Access in the Oakland County area. We're online and high definition civiccentertv.com, where you can watch us live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. You can also watch us live during our Monday through Friday 10 a.m. to 12 noon shows on My Michigan TV. Find more information at mymytv.com or mymitv.com and search on your mobile phone app store as well as your smart TV app catalog, My Michigan TV, for downloading, and it is a free subscription service, as well as content from all across the state of Michigan in a variety of genres and formats. We're pleased to be joined by Greg Flynn, the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department, to close out today's show as we continue through the COVID-19 pandemic and continue to get people encouraged to vaccinate themselves against COVID-19, something else that always comes into play right around this time of the year, and as we head into the colder months of the year, is also the flu, something that does vary itself each and every year, and people need to get vaccinated for that as well. And the fire department, coming up later on in September, will be joined by one local organization to hold a flu vaccine drive-through clinic. We're pleased to be joined by Greg Flynn to talk about that clinic. Chief, thanks for being with us today.
Tyler, good morning.
Appreciate having you on. So tell us a little bit about when this clinic's going to be, where it's going to be located, and what people can expect.
Yeah, the clinic's going to be September 25th, and we'll hold that clinic at Fire Station number 1 at 4601 Orchard Lake Road. That's the fire station right in front of the high school. And what's really convenient about these clinics that we've done in the past with Alana's Foundation, with Alana being a West Bloomfield resident that is a young girl, and her story all on the Alana's Foundation website. but becoming sick and that illness ultimately leading to Alana's passing. Her family really rallied around that and trying to make the best of it, created the Alana's Foundation, and is getting vaccines into kids' arms to prevent the spread of the seasonal flu. And we've partnered with them at our open houses. And now we've kind of taken it to the next step where we're bringing those drive-through clinics where people can register before coming to the clinic. And then they'll just drive right in. They'll have all their information. They don't have to get out of the vehicle necessarily, administer the vaccine, and they go right out the other side and they're on their way. So it really is a convenient model, and we get really good feedback about it.
We're joined by Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department today on the Megacast, talking about an upcoming clinic Saturday, September 25th at the West Bloomfield Fire Department. They'll be hosting a drive-through flu vaccine clinic in partnership with Alana's Foundation. And Chief, is this available to just those residents in West Bloomfield and in the Tri-Cities who are served by your department, or is this open to the general community as well?
Really, Alana's Foundation is applied to everybody in the area. They really just are focused on making sure those that want the vaccine for the flu have access to it. So don't believe that there's any kind of zip code checking or anything like that, but just being pre-registered. And if you went to our Facebook page for the West Bloomfield Fire Department, you'd see that in one of our more recent posts. And I think there's even a little QR code that you can shoot on your phone. It'll take you right to the registration page and get you going.
So why the drive-through clinic for this year? Because we've seen in the past, Alana's Foundation, of course, you mentioned that they are commonly at the fire department's open house events, but has the COVID-19 vaccine vaccination drives that we've seen, the drive-throughs at your fire departments through Oakland County, has that kind of inspired this drive-through? What was really the onset of this being the method that your department and Alana's Foundation went with for this vaccine clinic?
Well, there's some real advantages to it, Tyler, when we look at things like mobility issues. If somebody has to park their car and then walk across the parking lot and it's raining out or it's cold out or it's windy out, any of those things, we eliminate a lot of that by just they can drive, come right into the security and safety of the fire station apparatus room. And that's a very controlled space. So then we can, the nurses there, the Visiting Nurses Association, can go ahead and deliver the vaccine, and then they stay right in their car and they're right on their way out. And so the risk for slip and falls and trips and falls and just kind of some of those little things that can happen at a shot clinic are eliminated by putting those in place. And then with the pandemic going on, we're forcing that physical distancing that takes place because they remain in their car. And all of that just becomes easier to control. And, definitely fire stations across Southeast Michigan have been taking up this charge, and it's a good model. And it's still a good time of year to do that. Still warm enough where the apparatus room isn't getting too cold with the water and pipes and hoses that are in there. So September is just a great time to do that.
Who does Alana's Foundation encourage to go get this vaccine each year? Is it certain populations that they're saying are really important to get vaccinated against the seasonal flu, or is this something that they're encouraging everyone and their families to get as well?
Tyler, so many questions about vaccines right now, right? Yeah. So much debate about the efficacy of vaccines and that. I can tell you this. My parents have come to the fire open house ever since the Alana Foundation started administering the vaccine there, and that's where they got their flu vaccine every year. My parents are, well, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and I'm 47. So, my parents definitely in that age group, in that 80-year-old age group, that definitely is vulnerable, the susceptible populations to flu infection. And like all the vaccines, what we're trying to do is it's not preventing the transmission. What we're doing is preparing the body so that when the transmission takes place, that the symptoms and the disease, the illness is much, much less, if not even noticeable, because the body has such a quick immune response. So I think the answer to your question is everybody that is looking for the vaccine should come and get the vaccine for the flu. And if this date works for you, I know Alana's Foundation would love to fill every single appointment that they have scheduled.
We're joined by Greg Flynn. He is the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department with us on the Megacast. The fire department partnering with Alana's Foundation on Saturday, September 25th at Fire Station 1 located on Orchard Lake Road between Lone Pine and between Lone Pine and Green Road in West Bloomfield. You can find more information on this and other Alana's Foundation vaccine clinics at alanasfoundation.org. And Chief, as we continue to talk about vaccinations, right now, more than ever, it's being encouraged for people to go get their vaccines as the Delta variant continues to take a toll on the state of Michigan and across the U.S., less severely necessarily in the state of Michigan than in many other places. But that being said, still the vast majority, almost all of Michigan counties are still in high or substantial transmission zones according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And as local hospital systems continue to have some trouble with COVID-19 because of the influx of patients, not necessarily in our local area, but in other places across Michigan and the U.S. Are you seeing in your department, is your department having an increase lately as this Delta variant has been traveling around, an increase in calls to bring people from their homes in West Bloomfield and in the Tri-Cities due to COVID-19?
Tyler, you remember well over a year ago when we all rallied around the hospitals and we drove around them and the lights and sirens, and we all said we're supporting those frontline workers and we're doing that. It's interesting now that we almost are becoming fatigued by the term increase, by the term crisis. We're numb to these words. And I'm not pointing the finger at everybody else. I too, it's like almost I feel bad saying we see an increase because it seems like how can everything just keep increasing? The reality of it is that, whether you say high, low, or whatever, if you get COVID, we're seeing many people that have that negative impact. So what does the many mean? Well, I think the statistics have been pretty clear from the onset of this that they said about 80% of the people won't require hospitalization. Fantastic. I don't know that that's changed a ton, but 20% of any population is still a large number of people. And so, yeah, we're seeing that trend upwards of infections and symptoms of infection showing up in more of our medical reports. Again, how much of a percent increase? I don't know that it's ever gone away, Tyler. I think it's continued to be with us, but now we're seeing people sicker than what they were for whatever those reasons are. That maybe that's beyond the scope of what you and I can talk about, but we know the hospital admission rates are a great thing to look at, and we know that they're up. And the thing that we got to keep in mind, Tyler, when we talk about this is when every bed is full with someone sick with COVID, that's one less bed for the stroke victim, for the diabetic victim, from the cardiac patient that needs a bed as well. So we all need to do our part to stay healthy, and doing our part, a big component of that is I'm vaccinated. I'm one of them, and I'm willing and ready to go get my booster when my turn comes up.
We're joined by Greg Flynn. He is the West Bloomfield Fire Department chief with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. They have, of course, a vaccine clinic for influenza, for the seasonal flu, that will be on Saturday, September 25th at Fire Station 1 located on Orchard Lake Road in West Bloomfield, right next to West Bloomfield High School. Find more information on alanasfoundation.org, as that is in partnership with Alana's Foundation, a local nonprofit that is focused on getting people vaccinated and preventing the spread of the seasonal flu. And Chief Flynn, in recent weeks and over the last couple of months, we've seen a number of severe weather incidents in southeastern Michigan, all across the state. And while many areas southeast of us, particularly downriver, have been much more severely affected by these storms and their aftermath than necessarily our local area, that doesn't keep us immune from some of the negative outcomes of these storms, such as downed power lines. Even just across the street from us during one of those storms in late June, we had a power line that was down across the street that was causing a fire to go in and out on one of the trees by one of the residences. How did West Bloomfield and the Tri-Cities fare during those storms? What were some common issues that maybe popped up in regards to flooding or the downed power lines that would be important for our audience to know more information about to keep themselves safe in those situations?
Well, you're still seeing some of the aftermath from some of those storms with trees that were blown down that are still waiting on a safety path to be cleared, or somebody that may still have tree debris in their backyard. And it's not because of a lack of trying. It's not because of a lack of willingness to get that fixed. Really, it comes down to resources and people to physically go out and do the work. But I think you hit it well for what our area sees, and that is the down power and utility lines. I'm including the cable and other the lines that are the lower, usually those thicker cables that you see. Sometimes even in some areas you feel like you could reach up and touch them. Those are usually not electricity carrying, or they're carrying a signal, phone lines, cable lines, things like that. But what the tricky thing is with those, Tyler, is that if there's a downed power line that comes down onto those lines, they can become energized. So we really just encourage everybody to stay away from all of them, that no power line is safe to approach. We call those in. You can call the fire department. We put those into a list. When we hit those big storms, Tyler, we go into what's called storm mode. Pretty creative name, huh? Yes. What we do is dispatch starts logging what we call lower priority runs, which is what we consider a down power line. Lower priority does not infer no priority. We would just put, again, smoke in a building, fire, a medical emergency would be above that. And we log those, and we will get to each and every one of those that's called in. When we arrive, we assess the situation, tape it off with our yellow caution tape, and then we call those into an access number that we have at the FD through our partners in dispatch to get those all on a priority list for DTE to get out here. But, you talked, I just want to jump in real quickly too on that water issue. You talked about some flooding. We're very fortunate in West Bloomfield with all the areas that we have for water to go to with all of our lakes, that flooding routinely is not an issue for us. We do have some low-lying areas, over there by the Jewish Community Center off of Drake. There's a low area there. That road can sometimes flood. But a lot of this comes down to drainage issues. And we need to take care of our storm drain, our storm water transportation system, if you will, that routes this water to these collection sites. They become overgrown with invasive species and cattails and phragmite and debris. And we have some different strategies that we'll use to clear those. When I say we, I just mean government in general, not the fire department per se. But it's important to maintain those drains, because when they do come clogged with vegetation and other things, the water will collect in areas that we don't want it. And that's why the rest of there's a whole team in the township that has their eye on that and is maintaining those.
We're joined by Greg Flynn, West Bloomfield Fire Department Chief, also the Chief of the Tri-City Fire Department in Kegel Harbor, Orchard Lake, and Sylvan Lake, with us today on the Megacast. Chief, just another couple of minutes before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this moment in time that's important for our audience to know as they're going forward?
Well, we would encourage everyone to have a safe holiday weekend. That's for sure. The longer weekends, we know that as we talk about water, that one of the great things about living in West Bloomfield are all of our lakes that we enjoy. We encourage people to do their safety checks on their boats, make sure there are enough flotation devices on the boat. Make sure if you're going out on the water and you're out on a kayak or a canoe or one of those small sailing vessels, little sunfish kind of thing, again, that you have a flotation device. Even if you're a great swimmer and comfortable in the water, we really want to make sure we get through the entire water season without any undue accidents or injuries out there. So prevention is the key for that. And also, I'd like to just put on everyone's radar, Tyler, and know that our friends at Civic Center TV, we always welcome you at this event too, is on October 3rd, Sunday, October 3rd, is going to be our fire open house at Fire Station 1, same place as the flu clinic that we were just talking about, from noon to 3 on Sunday, October 3rd. Parking at the high school. We'll again have our friends from Parks and Recreation with a shuttle for those that need it, or it's a nice walk past the tennis courts over to the fire station. And Tyler, just keep in mind, the fire department will be monitoring the pandemic and what our numbers are like, but we feel confident that with it being an outdoor event, we can safely execute that in a way that will be fun for everyone to enjoy. Fire prevention doesn't go away just because there's a pandemic. And so we want to keep that messaging going, and it's through venues like this and opportunities that you provide us, Tyler, to continue to get those messages out. So we do appreciate that from you and your entire team.
We appreciate your time. Thanks, Chief.
Okay.
Have a good one. Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department with us on the Megacast. Just another couple minutes left in today's program before we'll say goodbye. And so before we go, I want to remind you, you can find the entire show from today and from the rest of our live programs on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Just click on our Watch Full Interviews link for specific interviews like our discussion just now with Chief Flynn or others from today's show, or watch the full episodes, the full 2-hour program at your leisure on demand at civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, on that page, you can find information on all of our partnering television, radio, and online outlets as well, including My Michigan TV. Figure out where you can subscribe to that and where you can get My Michigan TV on your mobile phone as well as on your smart TV. Learn more about 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, as their students began school this week, and their student broadcasters will soon begin doing their afternoon radio programming each and every day of the school week, and they do some great work over there. Learn more about those programs, about their radio program on their website by clicking on their link from civiccentertv.com/megacast. And of course, go to civiccentertv.com/coronavirus for more information directly about COVID-19 and our day's top headlines. Big thank you to Farhat Qazi for joining us at the beginning of the show, as well as Kerri Vizena from the Japhet School. Pleased to be joined in the 11 o'clock hour by Julie Carter, a U of M graduate student, as well as Clawson and Keisha Williams from the West Bloomfield Fire Department, and of course, Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department with us. Keisha and Kurt from the Police Department. My apologies, I know that I messed that up. A big thank you to our crew, Jake Kustash out there, Master Control, alongside Larry Nyland, our booking producer and Zoom producer, as well as Calvin Brown, our studio producer and board operator, with us each and every day. Big thank you to all of you tuning in on My, and hope you tune in at 12 noon as Steve Lato live is next on My, and then on Civic Center TV. More great programming and a meeting replay at 1 o'clock. In our case, we'll be back tomorrow morning live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. You are watching and listening to the Megacast.